0.1b. This is our second lesson for chapter 0. So the warm-up today is to be able to add or subtract these numbers without using a calculator. And our assignment today, as I mentioned, is 0.1b. And our learning target today is I can calculate slope given 2 points. So when you're calculating slope, the main skill you're going to need is to be able to add and subtract with positives and negatives. So that's why we're trying this for the warm up. So go ahead and pause the video until you're done, and then you can hit play when you're ready to check your answers. So you should have gotten -2, 3, and +2. A couple of things to point out. When you add a negative number, it's the same as subtracting. So this is 5 minus 7, which gives us the -2. -3 plus 6 is kind of self-explanatory. 10 minus -2, when you subtract a negative, it turns into a plus. So we end up doing 10 plus 2 for this problem, which is 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into calculating slope. This is one of those skills that you really want to master because it's just going to keep coming back over and over and over again. So take your time, try to learn how to do it really well this first time around, and then it'll just be something that you've got in your toolbox from here on out. So this is 0.1b, and we are using a formula to find slope. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what the formula is. It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that comes from having two coordinates, x1 and y1, and then x2 and y2. So you're always going to be provided with two coordinate pairs, and which is a total of 4 different numbers, and you're going to plug those 4 numbers into this formula, okay? So let's try it with this first example. We have -3, 17, and -1, 10. So I have a little trick that I like to use, and it helps prevent quite a few mistakes when you're finding slope. So give this a try, see if it helps you at all. I like to stack the numbers instead of writing them side by side. So I'm going to rewrite this as -317, and underneath it, I'm going to write the second coordinate, -1, 10. Now, the benefit of writing it this way is it groups the x's together and it groups the y's together. Versus when you have it side by side, that's an x, that's a y, that's an x, that's a y. So you have to kind of hop around. But here, these are both x values, and these are both y values. Now, when we look at our formula, we subtract the y's in the numerator of the fraction and we subtract the x's in the denominator. So I'm just going to put the same color highlighter pink where my numerator is going to go, and I'm going to put yellow where the denominator is going to go. All right. So our formula says that we are to subtract the y's and subtract the x's. y2 minus y1. So a lot of you probably think, oh, that means I have to do 10 minus 17. So it's the 2 minus the 1. But you actually can go in either order. So I usually just make it easy and do the top number minus the bottom number. So it's going to be 17 minus 10. And the denominator will be -3 minus -1. So now we need to simplify this. 17 minus 10 is 7. And then remember, minus negative simplifies to a plus. So -3 plus 1 is -2. Now, while we're on this problem, I want to mention something, that this is a negative slope because there's a negative number in my slope here. But this is the same exact answer as -7 over +2. So when you have a negative number in your slope, you actually can move that negative up or down on your slope. It doesn't have to be on the bottom. And I want to point that out to you because when you check your answers on this assignment, if this is your answer and this is the answer you see on my answer key, you got your answer right. These are the same thing, okay? Okay, let's do example 2. We have 12 comma negative 4 and then 12 comma 16. So I'm going to use the same trick for this one. We are going to stack the coordinates. And then I'm going to color code them. So I'm going to make my X's yellow and those go on the bottom. And my Y's are pink. Those go on the top. All right, so on the top, I do negative 4 minus 16. And on the bottom, I do 12 minus 12. Negative 4 minus 16 is negative 20. And 12 minus 12 is 0. So if you end up with a 0 in the denominator, that is an undefined slope. So that's one of those lines that is straight up and down. So it has a rise, but it doesn't have a run. Okay. All right. And then finally, we have example 3. So for example 3, we are going to have 7 comma negative 5 and 3 comma negative 5. So I'm going to stack my coordinates here. Okay, X's go on the bottom and Y's go on the top. So on the top, I have negative 5 minus negative 5. Bottom is 7 minus 3. So remember that when you have subtract a negative number, it can turn it into a plus. So this is actually negative 5 plus 5. And negative 5 plus 5 is 0. 7 minus 3 is 4. So this looks kind of similar to example 2, except this time the 0 is in the numerator. And when the 0 is in the numerator, that is a 0 slope line. So those are the lines that are flat. Okay, so there's a difference between if the 0 is in the denominator versus if it's in the numerator. Also, I want to point out on example 1, this was a negative slope. So this line faces this direction. So it goes down when you're going left to right. On your assignment today, in addition to calculating the slopes, I want you to just draw a little sketch of the line underneath each answer, just like I did here in the notes, just to kind of remind you what those lines look like as you're going, okay? So that's it for today's notes. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help you out.